PNC is proud to support the presentation of this City Club of Cleveland Friday Forum on WVIZ PBS.
Additional support comes from Cleveland State University. Support for closed caption transcripts of City Club forums is provided by the Nordson Corporation Foundation.
Good afternoon. I'm Judy Feniger, a member of the Board of Trustees of the City Club and co-chair of the Program Committee. I'm really looking forward to today's program. Stedman Graham is a remarkable man. Trained as a social worker and educator, he's expanded his horizons in very interesting ways and has much to teach us. He is an executive, educator, and speaker working with corporations, organizations, and nonprofits in identity development, leadership, diversity, wellness, and personal professional branding. He's authored 10 books, including 2 New York Times bestsellers. His current book, Identity, Passport to Freedom, was released this year and, as Gary mentioned, is on sale in the lobby. And if you are interested in a signed copy, please line up right away after the program. Mr. Graham has an airplane to catch, and we're going to get him out of here pretty quickly. So when we're done, please do that. He's a former adjunct professor at the University of Illinois in Chicago, where he taught a leadership course based on his 9-step process. Also taught management strategy at Northwestern University's Kellogg Graduate School of Management, and is a distinguished visiting professor at several colleges and universities throughout the country. In 1985, he founded ADD Education, Health, and Sports, formerly Athletes Against Drugs, a nonprofit with more than 500 professional athletes and civic leaders committed to developing leadership in underserved youth. He serves on many boards, is actively involved in leadership efforts and programs in South Africa, and founder of Concerned Citizens of Whitesboro and Concerned Citizens of Lake Waccamaw, is that right? Waccamaw, North Carolina. I urge you to visit StedmanGraham.com. You'll learn a lot more, including some quotes that encapsulate his management philosophy. And the one I liked is, "The best way to predict your future is to create it." Please join me in welcoming Stedman Graham to the City Club podium.
Thank you so much, Judy, and thank all of you for being here. Thank George Frazier for making me aware of the City Club and getting me here, and also a good friend of mine, David Reynolds. Thank you for being here and your support. I wrote a book called Identity, Your Passport to Success. And it's kind of a culmination of the other books I've written. The question is, why is identity so important? Isn't that an interesting question? We don't really think about that question too much. Why is your identity so important? And so I think most people don't realize that identity is everything. Another question would be, what happens when you don't know who you are? When you don't know who you are, you can't co-create with the world. When you don't know who you are, you can't take information, education, make it relevant to your purpose in life. You can't transfer it back to your mind, and then you can't transfer it to the American Free Enterprise System or the global marketplace. When you have no identity, you really aren't free. Well, what's this freedom stuff he's talking about? My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing, land where our fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside. Let your freedom ring. How do you let your freedom ring? Well, you have to have a foundation for growth and development. You have to have an identity. You have to know who you are. And ladies and gentlemen, there are 6.5 billion people in the world who probably will never know 99% will probably never know who they are, will never be able to have an identity for themselves. Because they wake up in the morning, they wash their face, they brush their teeth, they get something to eat, they get the kids off to school, they work all day, they come home in the afternoon, they spend time with the family, they watch TV, go to bed, maybe they dream that's Monday. What do they do on Tuesday? This is interactive, okay? Even though it's a city club, it's interactive, all right? What do they do on Tuesday?
Same thing.
What do they do on Wednesday?
Same thing.
What do they do on Thursday?
Same thing.
Friday, what do they do?
Same thing.
Saturday, what do? They sleep in, they wash, they clean up, they get the kids off to activities, they watch sports. Saturday night, a lot of people go out to dinner, they go out. Sunday, a lot of people go to church. They eat chicken dinners in the afternoon. They get ready for what, ladies and gentlemen? Work on Monday. And how long can they do it for? 50 years. 50 years. Doing the same thing over and over every single day. So if you did the same thing you did yesterday, as you would do today, as you would do tomorrow, what have you done? Same thing, which is nothing. You got it. And you go to school, you say, okay, school's a great thing. Education is wonderful. You go to school, the educational system teaches you how to memorize, take tests, repeat the information back. You get labeled with a grade. If I asked a student what they learned 2 weeks later, what would they say? Nothing. So if you're doing the same thing over and over every single day, which is nothing, everything you learn you forget, which is nothing. Nothing from nothing is nothing. And so the question becomes, do you know who you are? And the world says, well, since you can't define yourself, I'm going to define you. And the world defines you by your house, and the world defines you by your car, and the world defines you by your race. Puts you in a box that says you can't make it because of the color of your skin. Socially constructed box to make you think what? That you are less than. Wrong. I grew up with a race-based consciousness. I thought it was about white America. I thought it was about government. So I turned my power over to somebody else to define my potential as a human being. And then the world puts you in another box. The world puts you in the women's box, and says, well, you don't know who you are, so I'm going to put you in the women's box and tell you and program you to believe that you can't make it because it's a man's world. Wrong. Millions of women get stuck in that box. And you get into the family box. I grew up with 2 disabled brothers in my family. Grew up with low self-esteem, lack of confidence in myself. So I was in that family box. And then they put you in the religious box, and then you're in the entitlement box. I think I'm better because I make a lot of money, or I make more money than you. So you get into that box. You become part of that privileged thinking, and you get labeled in that box. And so you're labeled by the box, ladies and gentlemen. You're labeled by your house and your car and your clothes and your family and all the external things that make you think that's who you are. Wrong. And so it took me a long time to really understand that, you have to be able to transform your thinking to really understand who you are. And there's really no process for that. I know some of y'all probably define me by my relationship. I'm sure y'all said it. Don't say y'all didn't say it. Who are y'all listening to this afternoon? Well, I'm going to see Oprah's Man this afternoon. And I get stuck in that box. So I get into a lot of boxes, ladies and gentlemen. So I understand the boxes. And I also understand this is not how other people define you. It's how you define yourself. And so the question is, do you have the tools to define yourself? Can you take your power back? What I do know is that everyone's equal because everybody has 24 hours. The question is what? What do you do with the 24 hours? And what do most people do with their 24 hours, ladies and gentlemen? George, you talked about, folks watching TV for 70 hours a week. That's what they do with the 24 hours. giving all the power away to somebody else to what define them. And so we grow up not being able to really think. The missing piece is we don't really think. We're not conscious. We're just kind of walking around, surviving in a survival mindset. Thinking we are really doing something because we have a nice car, we have a nice house, so we're comfortable, but we'll never be able to maximize our potential as a human being unless you know who you are, so you can build a foundation for continuous development, the 24 hours that you have every single day, by taking information and making it relevant to your life and taking control over your own destiny, in spite of your background, in spite of your color, in spite of where you came from, in spite of your nationality. And that's real freedom when you can do that. And so it took me a long time to understand that, well, how do you do that? How do you own your own power? How do you move from a follower to a leader? How do you move from a slave to an owner? And I'm not talking about slavery in terms of race, I'm talking about slavery of the mind. How do you move from a consumer to a producer, where you can produce your own results, where you can have your own voice, where you can stand up for yourself and speak for your own person, for your own self? And there's a process for that. So I spent a number of years trying to create a process. I've written 11 books now, 2 New York Times bestsellers, and what I talk about is the 9-step success process, which is a life management program which teaches you how to organize your life around your identity. And so identity is the first step in the 9-step success process. And that first step is based on the most powerful word in the world. You've got to have this word, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't have this word, what's going to happen? You just be average. And what's average like? Average is what? Average is just average. It's just average. You're not designed to be average. You're not supposed to be average. Not in America, you're not supposed to be average. And so the first step, if you get this step, if you get this first word, you can do anything. And the word is spelled L-O-V-E, love. Most powerful word in the world. Some people will say God is love. And so when you can organize your whole life around love, when you can take the 24 hours that you have every single day, when you can take all the information and make it relevant to everything you love in your life, what happens? You begin to grow. You begin to be happy. You begin to smile. You begin to feel good about yourself. You begin to shape your own future on a piece of paper when you can organize everything you love and make it relevant to your whole life. We make your life more meaningful and purposeful because you have something you can focus on that you can actually think about that's tied to your what? Tied to your heart and soul, and then you transfer it to your mind so you can think. And then you take education and make it relevant to everything you love in the 24 hours that you have so you can empower yourself as a human being. And so you're able now to define yourself as opposed to having the world define you by the external illusionary things that make you think that's who you are when your life really is made up of things in your heart and soul. See, that's the secret. Nobody wants to tell you the secret. See, they just want you to be defined by the labels on the outside to make you think you can't make it happen. You're not supposed to believe in yourself, and you don't have the power to shape your own future and create your own destiny based on accountability and self-leadership and leadership. See, this is about leadership. And so when you get that first step, when you start to feel good about yourself, when you become motivated, when you become energized, because you feel good about yourself, because you have a solid foundation for growth and development every single day. You're better today than you were yesterday. and you can develop a process of continuous improvement for the rest of your life, and all you do is excel. And excellence becomes a deterrent for racism. It's based on the value that you give yourself. The value that you give yourself is the value the world gives you. The world sees you as you see yourself. The second step of the 9-step success process is you got to have a vision. The good book says where there is no vision, the people perish. When you don't have a vision, Cleveland is starting to have they're starting to do something here. You're starting to have a vision of what Cleveland can be. Beautiful city. All you need is a vision. And vision is your life's destination. Vision is your structural side. You can structure your whole life. You can structure your vision. See, it's not where you are. I know where you are. It's stuck in the box. It's not about where you are. It's about what? Where you're going. Where you're going to be. Then you have to have a third step. Well, you have to be able now to understand who I am. I have a foundation for growth and development. I'm excited about my life. I'm energized. I have a vision of who I can become. I'm not struggling anymore because I can feel that I can be hopeful in my life. I have a vision for where I'm going to go and who I can be. It's not where you are, it's who you can be. Who can you be in America? And the answer is anything you want to be in America. Third step, you got to have a plan. What's your plan look like? Ladies and gentlemen, it's all planning because it's all practice. Michael Jordan in Chicago became a great basketball player because he did what? What did he do? He practiced. It's all practice. Practice, 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 practice on yourself. So you can create value in your skills, in your passion, in your talents, in the value that you can create naturally, based on who you are as a human being. Practice, 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 practice. So you become an expert in your field. And then you serve the world with the value that you've created within yourself based on the practice that you do on yourself every single day. Fourth step, master the rules of the road, the guiding principles. Determination, got to work hard. Got to be passionate about the work that you do. Otherwise, it's hard to be motivated about the work that you're doing. Determination, perseverance, positive attitude, how big is that one? I worked in the prison system 5 years. Most people don't know that. I didn't say I was in the prison system 5 years. I heard he was in the prison system 5 years. A lot of folks in prison because, what, they have a negative attitude. See, there's only two choices. It's either positive or negative. It's either love or hate, will or won't, can or can't. It's assets or liabilities. So that's the choice. So the ability to be able to choose every single day, what choice am I going to make when I'm angry? Am I going to be angry or am I going to be loving? There's consequences with the choices. Step 5, step into the outer limits, overcoming your fears. There's two emotions. There's love and there's fear. Either live by love or live by fear. Step 6, power that ceases to change is not so much what happens to you, but how you respond to a lot of changes we're going through today with the financial tsunami. The question is, what is your internal capacity to deal with change? How strong are you? What do you work on every single day to make you what? The strongest possible person you can be. Step 7, build your dream team. No one makes it alone. No man or woman is an island to themselves. You can't make it by yourself. You need a team. Your team is predicated on what, ladies and gentlemen? How strong or weak you are. This is the law of attraction. Weak person attracts weak. Strong person attracts strong. The law of the jungle still applies. Only the strong survive. Step 8, win by decision. It took me a long time to understand that it's about the information. See, I didn't understand that. I grew up in an all-black town surrounded by White County where they said nothing ever good comes out of Whitesboro. And we had a lot of good that came out of Whitesboro. Growing up with 2 disabled brothers, I had a lot of shame, like I said, a lot of low self-esteem. Nobody, when I was a child, explained to me what it was all about. And I was called names by all kinds of kids, and I remember I had a defining moment in my life. I was a pretty good basketball player, all East Coast, eventually all state. And I played the European Pro League a number of years later on in life. And I was about 13 or 14 years of age, and we had one store in our small town. And the guy that owned the store, his name was Mr. T.A. And we used to hang out at Mr. T.A.'s every Saturday morning, you know, with the buddies. We'd be shooting pool and playing pinball, and I was kind of a bragger. I knew I was going to college because I was getting all these scholarship offers because I was a pretty good ball player. And I saw Mr. T.A. behind the counter, and I said, oh man, Mr. T.A.'s there. I'm going to tell him I'm going to go to college. So I said, Mr. T.A., guess what? I'm going to go to college. And Mr. T.A., I'm thinking he's going to say, we're so proud of you. You got out. You're going to college. Congratulations. Mr. T.A. looked at me, and I'm thinking he's going to say, great. And he says, son, you're not going to no college. Your family's too stupid, and you're too dumb. And you know, to be 13 or 14 years of age for someone you look up to who owns the only store in town to say to you, you're not going to no college, your family's too stupid, and you're too dumb, can either break you or make you. You can get sad or you can get mad. And I said to myself, you know what? After I was really hurt by it, I said, I'm going to fix that Mr. T.A. I'm going to college. I'm going to get my degree, and I'm going to bring it back. And I'm going to show you, Mr. T.A., that I'm somebody. And ladies and gentlemen, I went to school. I went to 3 different colleges before I graduated. And I'd stay up all night long after coming from a road trip playing basketball, studying, because what did I have to do? It was the last thing I did in my life. I had to get that degree and bring it back and show Mr. T.A. that I'm somebody. Finally graduated, ladies and gentlemen. Finally got that degree. I don't know if I learned anything, but I graduated. Then when I got my master's degree, worked in the prison system, served in the U.S. Army a number of years, and realized, you know, through all of that, it's about information and education. And the empowerment comes is when you can take information and education and do what? Filter the information and make it relevant to every one of your natural abilities. See, when I discovered that, I said, oh my goodness, this is about process. See, there's 2 types of brains. You know, there's left brain and right brain. I'm right brain. Right brain is what? Right brain is big picture. Right brain is visionary. Right brain is artistic. Right brain is emotional. Left brain is what? Analytical, detailed, engineers, accountants are left brain. And I'm right brain. So what do I need to succeed in life? I need left brain to be able to execute. So if you're just right brain and you're going around, you know, visionary and artistic and everything else, but you can't get it done, what happens? You don't use the whole brain. Because you know 45% of the people in the world are right brain, 45% are left brain, and 10% are no brain. So I created the 9-step success process as a right brain, left brain process. And see, knowing that when you're right brain, if you can what? If you can process, if it's just called practice, you can create a structure around the vision and the artistic work that you do, and you put that together, right brain and left brain, you got a whole brain. See, that's the genius. Last step. Well, this is a very important step. Commit to your vision. You got to make a commitment to what? To change. Got to make a commitment to what? You know, being a winner, got to make a commitment from moving from a follower to a leader. See, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about what? It's all about leadership. And it's first about what? You can't lead anybody else until you first lead yourself.
Yes, yes.
And leading yourself is about becoming the best you can be. And I'll tell you, Dr. King said it better than anybody else when he talked about becoming the best you can be. And he applied that to anything. It wouldn't make any difference whether you're sweeping streets or whatever you're doing. And when he talked about becoming the best he could be, I remember him saying, he said, even if it falls your lot to be a street sweeper, sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures. Sweep streets like Handel and Beethoven composed music. Sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, here lived the great street sweeper that swept her or his job well. If you can't be a pine on the top of a hill, be a scrub in the valley. But be the best little scrub on the side of the hill. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. It isn't by the size that you win or fail. Be the best of whatever you are. And City Club, you're the best. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Appreciate it very much.
Wow. Thank you. Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we're listening to a Friday forum featuring Stedman Graham, businessman and author of Identity, Your Passport to Success. We will return to our speaker momentarily for the traditional City Club questions. Please formulate questions now and remember to be brief and to the point and to ask questions in the form of a question, not a statement. Thank you. We welcome all of you here and those listening to 90.3 WCPN Idea Stream, WCLV, WTAM, or one of the many radio stations across the country. Our television broadcast partner is WVIZ PBS Idea Stream. Television broadcasts of the City Club are made possible by Cleveland State University and PNC. Our live webcast is supported by the University of Akron. We'd like to welcome guests today at a table hosted by Baker Hostetler. Thank you for your support. And we would also like to welcome George Frazier from FrazierNet, an integral part in today's program. Thank you, George. Now we'll return to our speaker for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions from everyone, including guests. Holding the microphone today is City Club Program Director Carrie Miller.
Hi, my name is Merle Johnson. I'm a Cleveland school teacher, and I want to thank you for being here. Michelle Alexander has written a book called The New Jim Crow, in which she talks about the mass incarceration of our young African-American men. And when you look at that population, that's certainly a population who has no idea who they are. So my question is, I'm sure you've spoken there, but have you donated books? Since there's so much downtime in prison, it seems that that would be an ideal population to do book donations so that they can begin to identify their future.
Thank you so much for that. I wrote a book called Teens Can Make It Happen. and we have a 10-week curriculum to teach people young people how to develop an identity for themselves. So we're creating a process to deliver a systemic program around identity development in the schools, and we've been doing that for a number of years now. We also have an online program also around identity development. And specifically, I'm working with the National Council on Educating Black Children. So we are looking at developing a program also for young men, not just young black men, but Latino men and men, period, who need an identity for themselves and need to understand who they are, which is the foundation for their development. If we can change the learning system around where they now can take information and make it relevant to their development as opposed to looking at the outside world as a way to define themselves, then that's going to help empower them, and that's, we continue to do that kind of work. So you have the books and you have all the content and the curriculum that's necessary to be able to change the way they think and feel about themselves.
Several years ago, I heard you speak at the National Speakers Association. Got to chat with you briefly afterwards. You talk about the role of practice. I wonder if you talk about the role of practice as a speaker, since that's so much a part of your job, and obviously you're very good at it, but like Michael Jordan, I'm sure you didn't just wake up and be good at it. So I wondered if you talk about practice in the role as a speaker.
Okay. I grew up in a kind of a culturally deprived community a little bit, and I have to work on my communications a lot. And so speaking is not something that I really am, and I naturally would love to do. I had to learn how to do it because of the passion that I have for the work that I do. And so speaking is a result, it should be a result of the passion that you have. To say something that's relevant to your heart and soul, that's real, so that you can become authentic in your message. And so that's probably the first step. The rest is practicing how to do it and how to understand, the three basic points of speaking, how to be clear on what your message is, how to be consistent about your message, and also to understand your role and how to self-actualize your purpose and based on what you're on this earth to do, and to use all the communication channels to be able to get that message out into the world. Then it's practice, 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 practice.
Thank you for your comments, and I certainly hope that young people take the advantage of listening to the rebroadcast of your remarks today. I'm the mother of a 22-year-old, and one of the concerns or one of the challenges that she has faced is in the selection of her friends. And we know often that young people begin to go down wrong paths by virtue of the friends that they choose. So what advice would you give to young people about how they make decisions about who should be on their dream team and in their circle of friends?
Well, that's a great question. It's a process of organization. That's why identity is so important, because you can be clear on what you should be doing with your time based on who you are. So when you begin to organize everything that's relevant to you, and this is not just for kids, this is for adults too, to be clear on what your habits are going to be, how you're going to organize your 24 hours, how your friends are relevant to enhancing your value around your vision and around your plan for the day. Do you have a life plan for yourself? Are you going to college? Are you around friends who are going to college? So when you tie that to your heart and soul, everything changes. That's why when you change your thinking, you change your whole life. Because your thinking determines your friends. They determine what life you're going to have. They determine your destiny. They determine everything. They determine your social economic development. So the foundation for thinking is to be able to organize your life around you and what's important to you. What is important to you? What do you care about? Then that will determine what kind of friends you have, because you're not going to put that much time and effort into yourself, which is an internal process, and do all that work and then throw it away when, just to hang around with folks that are not relevant to your development. When you're clear and you have clarity about yourself, and you begin to think about and take control of your own destiny and be accountable for your own time and for your own future and take responsibility for that, then you take responsibility for everything else.
Hi, my name is Iris Cumberbatch. I'm with the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland. Every good leader is also a follower, and so I'm curious about who you follow. Who are your role models and why?
Great question. My role models are everybody. So everybody I meet, I try to take a little bit of something from you, the way you stand, the way you carry yourself, the dignity that you have. And so that, to me, you know, everybody is, to me, is really the same. The process of success is the same. That's what I got. That's what I understand. And so you're just as capable to achieve any kind of success you want based on who you are, based on your work, and based on your internal capacity, your strength, and all of that as anybody else. And so I'm looking for if I'm coming in contact with you, which I am right now, I'm looking to how I can gain strength from you based on what you've learned, based on your resilience, based on what you bring to the table. And to me, that's the greatest opportunity to be able to learn and get as much from other people as possible, you know, so everybody kind of serves as a role model for that. You know, you can have positive role models and also negative role models, positive traits and also negative traits. I don't want the negative traits. I'll take the positive traits and try to enhance my life based on that.
Good afternoon. My name is Yvonne Pointer. You talked about identity and breaking out of the boxes. And then you alluded a little bit to how you are identified as the boyfriend of. Mm-hmm. Is it ever an occasion that boxes can be beneficial and that we shouldn't try to break out, but,
Yeah.
but we make the box work for us?
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, the world's a collection of unlimited wealth and resources. Often we limit our potential by moving in our own small circles because of our fears. If we change the way we think and feel about ourselves, we can create anything that we want. And so the world is a collection of unlimited wealth and resources. And that includes the people around you. And so the idea of being able to, again, adapt without losing your heritage, without losing your culture, without losing your voice, without losing your identity, you see, that's the key. And so if you can stay in the box a little bit if you want to, and then get out the box and then come back to the box if you want, you know, that may work. But it's certainly it's being able to be flexible, and also in the 21st century with jobs being outsourced, with, you know, people living a long time, with, you know, really this is the century of ownership where you have to own yourself because you may not have a Social Security, you may not have a pension. Kids are coming out of school now, they got to go back home. You know, they don't really have jobs now. It's really tough. Wages are going down. You have a lot of mergers and acquisitions. You know, you have 800 channels. And so people really have lost their voice because they're in this global marketplace that really gives them no control, as opposed to the traditional 3 channels we used to have and the neighborhoods we used to have where people used to talk to each other. Now they're using Facebook and all the social media and everything else. And so the idea of being able to collectively understand that this is also the greatest opportunity in the world, because you can send an email from here to South Africa and get a response back in less than, you know, a few minutes. And so when you have that access, then, you know, the access should be relevant to your development so you become a stronger person based on the opportunities that you have. Success is when preparation meets opportunity. Prepare yourself. The opportunity is the world now. And how do you make that relevant to your voice, and how do you become clear on who you are, where you're going, and how you're going to get there? You have to be conscious to do that. You got to have a thinking brain to be able to make that happen. You have to be able to understand how to take education and filter the information and make it relevant to who you are every day. We have lots of information. So much information that what? We get lost in the information. Yes. The problem is not the information. The problem is, can you filter the information and make it relevant and actionable to a plan that will enhance the value of your life and create and improve your social economic condition as a person. One person first, and then share that with your family, and then create a collective consciousness around excellence and performance in education and development. That's a leadership issue. First starting with who? With yourself.
Thank you very much for bringing your inspiring message to Cleveland. In your search for identity and understanding the importance of identity, you identified how important discovering your passion and what you have passion for in life is. When most of us in our society ask young children, we don't ask them who you are. We ask them what job or what career are you aspiring to become. And so we kind of paint a box for them to fit in. I wonder if you could share with us what your learnings have been from a process standpoint about how we help each other, and particularly our young folks, discover their passion as part of their identity before they decide what box or what career they're going to pursue.
Well, certainly we have to move from them being able to create value around test taking that's systemic in its process to deliver, a systemic program that says you're only as good as the test. And if you don't make the test, then what happens? You drop out. So you have over 50%, especially of minorities, are dropping out of school every single day because they can't pass, sometimes they can't pass the test. And you're saying you're not valuable because you can't pass a test? And so the idea of I get the 21st century is really about independent learning. It's how do you now teach people to be lifelong learners, to have leadership ability, to be able to be self-starters, and the idea of being able to find out who you are so you have a foundation for looking at yourself and believing in yourself and understanding that you have value and that you have access to a whole world. And maybe you don't do tests well, but you can what? You work with your hands. And you can work in vocational skills that give you value based on not everybody being the same. Everybody's uniquely different. So the idea of being able to now train people in, again, identity development, leadership development, self-leadership development, and giving them the tools to be able to believe in themselves so they can source their own content and information, to include school. School's very important. Education is very important. And show them how to make that educational framework relevant to their development every single day so they can take control and be accountable of their own development, and then partner with the parent, then partner with the teacher, and then partner with the school system to create a better life for themselves.
Good afternoon, Mr. Graham. Thanks, first of all, for coming to the Cleveland area. Pastor Eugene Norris, Akron, Ohio. Two quick questions. One, if you had a room full of pastors right now, leaders in our community, what would your message be to them? And my second question, what might we do to bring LeBron James back to Cleveland area? You can skip that one if you like. I'll take the first one, though. But.
And the second one, you should call him, okay? I'm not going to make that call, okay? I think this is an organizational process. So pastors are leaders, and they represent a lot of people. It's also a structural issue. What's your structure look like, where all the churches are? How do you change people's thinking about themselves and their possibilities? Which to me is really the basis for church, because church, what makes churches work is one word: love. So how do you expand the love inside the church to the outside where all of the issues are? And so this is a structural issue. Sometimes it's political. And how you organize that environment, what you put in that structure, whether the schools work or not, do they work? Do the teachers work? Does the community work? Is there leadership there? Are you able to organize resources? Do you have banks in the community? Do you have access to finance and funding? Do you have a vision for that community? Are you even organized? And so what I see is a lack of self-development, a lack of pride, a lack of concern about your own people in that community, because it is a community issue. And it's the aggregation of communities that determine how strong the city is going to be. It's also an aggregation of the people The community is only as strong, as well as the church is only as strong as its congregation. The community is only as strong as its congregation. The city of Cleveland is only as strong as its congregation. So if you have a 50% dropout rate in the city of Cleveland, or whatever the number is, or 50% among your dropout rate in your community, what's the problem? The problem is you're going to have a drain on your community. And so you got to go where the root of the issue is. The root of the issue is that folks are not being educated. So what the ministers can do is focus on education as a way to build a foundation to give people the tools they need in order to be able to take care of themselves so they can be productive members of that community, so they can contribute to that community, thus contributing to the city of Cleveland, thus contributing to the strength of America. And the process of that, of success, works the same way. It doesn't make any difference whether you're in India, Brazil, Cleveland, or whether you're in a community full of churches in small community USA. The process is the same. That's what I got, irrespective of race, gender, or whatever the case may be. So when you allow yourself to be to believe that you can't make it, then that's an illusionary, socially constructed message that makes you think that you are less than. And so when you think you're less than, you're going to be less than. And thus, to me, that's part of the problem. And the ministers can be part of the solution on that.
Mr. Graham, much of your message, I think, resonates well in the lives of adults. I ask you, if you were speaking to a parent of an infant, what aspect of your thinking, which of the 9 steps, might be most helpful to that parent in working on the identity of his or her child?
Well, I love the parents because parent identity to me is very crucial, because the child is only as good as the parent. When the parents don't know who they are, when the parent doesn't know who he or she is, then the child will never know. And so you break the cycle. You have a good chance of breaking the cycle when you teach parents how to find their own passions, how to improve their own lives, how to work on themselves every single day, how to invest in themselves. So the more they can invest in themselves, the stronger they become. Thus, they're able now to they give that back to the child. I have a daughter, I think her life changed a lot when I began to change. Our conversations begin to change, because as I began to work on myself, and as I became stronger in my own right, as I became more focused on my own passion and natural abilities, as I began to self-actualize myself, I could also serve as an example for her, and also, my family tree. So it does make a difference, because parents are the leaders in the home. So it's a huge thing when you can get parents to realize, I can do anything, and also I'm going to tell my child that you can do and be anything you want to be every day. And so you change your belief system and their possibilities about, what they can do based on how they think and feel about themselves. That starts in the home with the parents.
Again, talking about our young people, they spend a lot of their time in social media, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Mm-hmm. And yet, it feels as though they're losing or not achieving social skills. So I listen to young people talk, and their conversations are very superficial, because you can only get so much conversation in a tweet. So what do we do to help our young people come together in community and really build each other up with real good social interaction?
Well, once they have a passion for what they want to do, and technology is wonderful if you can have technology work for you as opposed to you working for it, and have a vision about where you want to go with your life, and then kind of organize that and structure that and figure out where technology lies inside of that vision, so you can organize the culture of technology, because there's a culture that goes with it. And so to be able to kind of, organize that industry and organize every communication vehicle that's relevant to your development allows you to empower yourself every single day. Once you learn that, then it becomes an asset as opposed to a liability.
Mr. Graham, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more, expand a little bit more on your journey for finding your identity and what that has meant for you along the way.
Well, I'm still working on that. So, because that's a lifelong journey, and it changes based on the way that you think. So the more that you learn, the more that you want to learn. So it's a process of constant development. It's really been a tough journey for me because I had to, you know, I live on again under kind of a public shadow, and not kind of, a big public shadow, okay? And I have to find my own voice within all of that. And so a lot of times I walk in the door and I'm not representative of myself. And so I have to have an alignment based on who I am. I have to be very clear on who I am. And also, you know, it takes a lot of strength to be able to stay within that core development place that doesn't get you off track because of the newspapers, because somebody has a different mindset of who you are, because a lot of times you're in there by yourself, or maybe you're making a presentation to an organization or a corporation or whatever, and you still got to be who you are. You still got to believe in yourself. You still have to have clarity. And you're dealing with a whole outside world that tries to put you in that box. So no, we talked about getting outside the box, ladies and gentlemen, but when you walk out the door, what's going to happen to you when you transform your mind from a follower to a leader, and you try to be a leader and you walk out the door, what's going to happen? The box is weak. They're going to put you in people are going to try to put you in a box. They're going to say, woman, what you think you are? What are you doing thinking? You better get back in that box. And it might be your family. It might be your significant other. It may be your friends who are mad because what? You are trying to be somebody. You weren't the same person you were last year because you are thinking every single day, every day. You take one day, great day, and you improve that day. You take 7 days, that's a great week. You take 4 weeks, that's a great month. You take 12 months, that's a great year. And you've changed over the year. And folks don't like what? Change. They like you to be very comfortable. So, you know, the journey has been being able to, again, not get too comfortable. You know, I'm around a lot of success, not get too comfortable with success, because success is what? Makes you think you don't have to do anything. And you don't get anything done, you can't practice anything, you can't stay focused. So whatever you focus on expands. And when you don't focus, nothing happens. When you don't focus. So you're all over the place. So the key is to stay grounded, stay focused on who you know that you are, and then stay aligned with that, and then be able to organize all the resources and all the external things and make them relevant to you. So you say to the world, I'm not working for you. You're going to work for me based on my identity.
Just a basic question. I know everybody's dying to ask this question, so you're a good friend, so I can ask you. Do you read all that crap that comes out about you, and how do you process that and deal with that? I mean, all the lies and tabloid crap that you read in the supermarket, and the crazy pictures, and I mean, how do you process that and deliver yourself from that evil?
George, how do you process all the things people talk about you and say things about you? The process is the same. It might be a little bit bigger. You know, it's probably nothing worse than somebody in your family, you know, telling lies about you. How you process that? So, or your friends, you know, maybe saying something negative about you. So the process is the same. You have to know who you are. That's where all the influence and the power and everything is. The power is in with you. It's in your soul. It's right here in your heart that says, you know what? You can't move me. That doesn't move me. You know what moves me is my educational work, my writing books. That's what moves me. You know, all the external stuff, the papers don't move me. What moves me is my ability to be able to take information and education and make it relevant to my purpose every single day, so I stay aligned with my vision and I have a plan that's bigger than your little stuff. That's what moves me.
Would you say a few words about how your way of thinking would help someone enter into a successful marriage?
Well, I think, you know, it's the law of attraction applies. You attract only, you know, what you're able to put out. It's called vibration and energy. If you have low energy, then you attract low energy. When you have high energy and you're developed, this is a development issue. When you develop yourself so you're intense and you care about yourself and you work on yourself every single day, that's exactly what you put out. So whatever you get is what you put out. If you're weak, you're going to attract, again, weak. And you're, you know, so the idea of being able to build a strong relationship is really based on who you are, so you have some clarity about what's important to you. Then you can attract that person that also shares what's important to you. That's how the relationships work.
Thank you. Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we've been listening to a Friday forum featuring Stedman Graham, businessman and author of Identity, Your Passport to Success. Thank you, Mr. Graham. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This forum is now adjourned.
For information on upcoming speakers or for podcasts of the City Club, go to cityclub.org.
PNC is proud to support the presentation of this City Club of Cleveland Friday Forum on WVIZ PBS.
Additional support comes from Cleveland State University. Support for closed caption transcripts of City Club forums is provided by the Nordson Corporation Foundation.